Okay, welcome everybody to our interactive Q&A on food allergy travel packing. So glad that you're all with us today. We have an hour planned where we're going to go through tips, stories, and advice from very experienced travelers, talking all about travel packing and hacks in that regard. And as my grandfather clock strikes 10 o'clock, I'll let you know I am in Slovenia right now, so I am in the midst of travel. And I know our panel has been to many places as well, so they'll be sharing that. But to start off with, let's do a poll. I'd love to get to know our audience. And our first question is, have you traveled internationally with food allergies before? All right, you have 3 more seconds. Let's see, I'm going to share the results. And 52% have not traveled internationally with food allergies and 48% have. Excellent. So we have a real split today, and that's really helpful for us to hear, so we can really tailor our information. We're going to have some, really very first level of traveling international information, and then we'll have some high level things too, that after you've gone on a few trips, those, how have your packing strategies adapted over time. All right, the next question, bear with me. We'll get our polls out of the way with at the start, and then we'll do probably another 1 or 2 at the very end. And that is, are you planning on any traveling this year? All right, let's see. Share the results. So, wow, this is really telling of probably why you're here today, is that 61% of you are going to travel internationally this year. How exciting. I would love to know where you're planning on going to. Feel free in the chat to put the country that you're traveling to. It's really helpful for us to see. Nationally, excellent. Traveling in your own country, seeing the beautiful corners of it, and some are just not sure. All right, some are going to Italy, Ireland, wow, France. And maybe you might see someone in the chat that's going to the same place you're going, and you might make a support connection today, which would be great too. Oh, I'm just getting all starry-eyed and dreamy with all of these locations you're putting in. Oh, Japan, Caribbean. Oh, wow, excellent. So I think we have one more question I'm going to ask before we dive into things here. And that is to really help us out today in knowing, what is your biggest area of concern regarding packing with food allergies? All right, 3 more seconds. Oh, this is interesting. We have a clear winner on this one, and that is having safe food, or access to safe food. So really, really helpful to know this in terms of that care of how much food can we bring, what food can we bring, how do we pack it, where do we find it once we're there. So this is going to be a really great theme that we can focus in on today. Thank you very much. And then there's, with airplanes, things like this, there's a lot of considerations with food. Excellent. Thanks for letting us know this feedback, and we'll get started with a lot more targeted information. So my name is Kyle Dine. Some of you might know me as a musician. I do food allergy music for children. I do school-wide assemblies in schools, educating kids all over North America about food allergy awareness. I'm going on tour this May, excited to go over to over 30 schools to just educate children. I also run Equal Eats, which is a company that specializes in allergy translation cards, where we use professional translators, professional proofreaders, and then we use native speakers to review every single translation card that we make. I have multiple food allergies ever since I was young, to peanuts, tree nuts, egg, fish, shellfish, and most recently mustard. And my wife has celiac disease, so also very well versed in a very allergy celiac friendly kitchen. We have been so lucky this year. We put a call out to have brand ambassadors. We're pretty new, our company. We barely made it through this pandemic as a travel related company. And we were just so amazed when we put a call out to have 23 people that wanted to be a part of our company, to align with us and help spread the word. So we're really proud to have so many amazing advocates on board our team. And I can look no further than the three that we have with us today, with Kelsey, Barbara, and Lindsay, who help us spread the word about not only just our company, our brand, but about how we can empower our community to travel, to stay safe, to see this beautiful world, and let people know that it's okay. So if anything, this is our inspiration that we love having, because this is what we're all about, is saying yes to travel and getting through those barriers. So before our panel introduces themselves, here's what's up today. We are going to provide you with firsthand information. We are not doctors. We're travelers. We're world travelers, and we're going to give you a lot of nitty-gritty firsthand tips, experiences, stories, the good, bad, and the ugly. It's going to be inspirational. It's going to be hopefully motivating for you too. And we're going to answer as many questions as we can that you have about packing and international travel. But we will not provide medical advice. I am not a doctor, nor do I pretend to be. And we can't get into too specific of situations. We can help on high level. We're going to give you a lot of general info. We can't go into incredibly deep dives of situations. So overall, we're going to give you what we can today of our knowledge, try to provide confidence and inspiration. But here's the stars of the show, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I know that they have a wealth of travel experience, and they've been on a journey with food allergy, just like most of all of us here. So Barbara, please tell people who you are, where you are, and your journey with food allergy.
Sure. Hi, Kyle. Hi, Kelsey, Lindsay, and everyone else online. My name is Barbara. I'm from Argentina. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm from Argentina. Until a month ago, I was living in South Africa. We came back just now. I am not allergic, but my daughter is, and I'm breastfeeding, so I am doing her diet as well. She was diagnosed with a severe cow's milk allergy protein. Later, we also find out that she is allergic to soy, and she has a specific allergy that is F-bias, so it can get pretty bad. But anyways, I felt very alone in my allergy journey. In Africa with a newborn, and I just sort of help be honored to be one of Equal Eats ambassadors, which is a great resource that we use a lot. So thanks for that.
All right, thanks, Barbara. Your connection's a little bit shaky. I don't know if there's a better spot in your house, but we got the gist of it. We got the gist of it. Kelsey, go ahead.
I'll move around.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I am Kelsey. I'm excited to be talking with you all today. My background with food allergies is I was diagnosed when I was around 2.5 with a laundry list of allergies: peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, gluten, soy, shellfish, kiwi, banana. I also recently learned what oral allergy syndrome is, which I 100% have. So raw fruits and vegetables, and all the seasonal things. So definitely was named the Histo Queen by my coworkers, which I love. But that has kind of carried with me my entire life, clearly, and helped me develop into the person I am now. My family was very much into travel and not allowing allergies to hold me back at all. So I traveled starting when I was traveled internationally, starting when I was pretty young, for that reason, and just because a global perspective was something that was really important to my family. So I mean, currently I work for a hospitality tech company, but my background is in food and beverage management with hotels. So I've definitely traveled around the world, throughout, I mean, the United States, because I am based in New York City, but also Asia, Africa, South America, Europe, and have been to some pretty far away places. So it can definitely be scary, but there are a lot of tips and tricks that we can use, and a lot of services like Equal Eats that I love, to be able to do it in a safe but adventurous way.
Excellent. And before Lindsay introduces herself, thanks, Kelsey. You're probably starting to think of questions already for the panel as they start naming off all of these incredible locations. So if you have questions, please feel free to start typing in chat. We're going to be monitoring all of these questions and trying to get to as many as possible. So you can start putting them in there. You can put your hand up. We have a few questions prepared, but really this is about what you want today and what you're looking to get out of this. So feel free to start that. Lindsay, hey, welcome.
Hi guys, I'm Lindsay. I'm currently living in Tampa, but I've lived throughout the US. I was born with a severe tree nut allergy, and since then I've definitely learned tips and tricks that I'm really comfortable with. But within the last year, I was also diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So gluten and dairy are huge triggers, but I haven't let it stop me from traveling. I've been to about 20 different countries, pushed the limits of my comfort zone, and made it to the Middle East last year. And then even with my new allergies, was able to travel to Portugal and Brussels last year. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Equal Eats is a huge reason I feel so comfortable traveling. So yeah.
Awesome. My gut question is that I just want to know what's your favorite places to travel to, but we're here for food allergy packing. And then maybe at the end, we'll start talking about some of the best places on earth to go to. We already have some questions coming in, which is great. I see one of our first questions has already been echoed here. So let's just get it out of the way with: how many EpiPens or epinephrine auto injectors do you fly with when you travel? How many do you pack with you for an international trip, domestic trip? How many you got?
I carry 2 on me every day, no matter where I'm going, just within the US even. I'd say that depends on your comfort zone. I think that's different for everyone. I minimal have on me about 4 when I'm abroad. Egypt, again, was a little bit out of my comfort zone. I had 6 with me. Again, I've always just managed the tree nut allergy. So if you have different allergies and more than one, you might feel comfortable carrying even more than that. I think it's better to say the more you have, the safer. You don't want to end up using one right at the beginning of the trip and then only be left with one left. So I definitely say the more and whatever you feel comfortable with.
I am almost the exact same as Lindsay. I carry around 2 with me on a regular basis when I'm walking around within miles of my apartment. But when I'm traveling internationally, I typically like to have probably 4 in my handbag or whatever bag I'm carrying on me. But I try to travel with as many as I can, put them in different bags. Definitely not medical advice here, but if I have expired ones laying around, if they're within a couple, like a year or two, I'll pack those also, just to kind of have them, honestly, probably just for my brain to feel a little safer. And depending on how far away from a city I'm going, just to kind of buy that amount of time if I need it. I'll definitely just throw as many as I can into a bag, but I make sure that the current not expired ones are in my handbag, readily accessible.
Nice. And Barbara, of a mother of a child with food allergies, how many do you bring typically? Unfortunately, it's frozen, or it's a very dramatic pause. But we'll get back to you, Barbara. It just seems frozen on your end. So yeah, it's sometimes more is best, just to make sure. And I found this really interesting. We have some where is it? Just some comments that I pulled from our Allergy Travels group, which, if you're not a part of, is a really great support network. And just to hear some people's firsthand examples of how many auto injectors they bring, or situations when they actually needed to go get one. And in some cases, it was easy. They didn't need a prescription. Like in Canada, they could just go to a pharmacy and get one immediately. Sometimes, this last comment, I had to buy EpiPens in Spain after my backpack was stolen. I was able to buy them over the counter. Some places you're not. It could be a mixed bag, which is why it's so important that you have additional ones with you, because every country can be different. So excellent. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I do have more resources, but I want to put our panel front and center here. Great. So before we get into, oh, wow, so many great questions already. So let's get into, what's your essential travel list? If you had to make a packing list for food allergies, what goes on that? What are your mainstays for if you're going on an international trip?
I would definitely say medications at the top. I always make sure, and I think you can separate the lists on what you're carrying on you versus what you're packing in maybe a bag. So always in my pouch that I have with me at all times, I have my 2 EpiPens, I have Benadryl. I even have like wipes to wipe down anything on the airplane. So I think how I do it in my head is I figure out what's most important, and then I figure out where I want to put it, that makes sense. And then layering that in with the food and snacks I'm bringing and things like that. So I think it's a multi-level question, but the most important that I make sure is the prescriptions. If you have a doctor's note, that's always good. I think even if anything's, I have prescription that has to be refrigerated. So that's, again, another level of like how I'm packing and where I'm putting these things. So I think that's a tough question to answer without knowing, like, if we want to just talk medication, that's a whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends on where we're going. But generally my mental checklist is EpiPen, Benadryl, any other antihistamines that I need to take. I usually carry kind of a medley, a lot of whatever I'm packing. And then a ton of snacks and wipes, Purell. But those are definitely the top couple. And I mean, then we can go into actually specific medications or anything else. The only important part, I say, for any of those meds is to keep them as close to you as possible, like that it's not something that ends up in an overhead bin or ends up checked, or ends up that someone else is carrying it, that if you get separated, that other person's carrying your EpiPens. These seem like kind of basic things, but it's always nice to kind of remember that, okay, this is my important bag and this is the one that gets to stay on me at all times. So that's always a good reminder.
I think even piggybacking off of that, having whoever you're with, like, know where your EpiPens are, just God forbid you needed help, that, like, just having someone else know where these things are is super useful as well.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Barbara, we were just talking about what are the essentials in terms of what to pack for food allergy management for a trip. And so far, medication is at the top of the list to make sure that it's all in date, you have enough, it's accessible. Would you add anything to that?
Sorry, I sort of fell, came back. My connection, it seems to be very shaky. Apologize for that. Yes, medication is at the top of our list always. If you travel with a medical insurance, that I recommend you do, always have the phone numbers of that medical insurance at hand. I don't know if you talked about that already, but always have it like with your passport, like or your EpiPen. The 2-3 things that you have to have at hand. That's one of those. Yeah, I would recommend that as well. And then obviously some food that is safe for you, or but yeah, I think medication and the details of your medical help.
Absolutely. Great starter tips just around medication. And I think we'll probably focus on food for the last half of today's discussion, because I know there's a lot of questions on packing food specifically for international, what's allowed and how you do it. But following up on some questions from our audience in terms of flying with EpiPens, have you ever had to produce a doctor's note to have all of this medicine with you? Have you ever been asked at customs or at an airport?
I have never. It's never been an issue for me.
I've never either. It's not to say, I mean, every time you go, I feel like every place is different with the rules and how you go through security, but I've never had an issue with my medication now.
And we actually did a poll on the Allergy Travels group about this. It's group poll on the left here, or no, on the right. Has airport security ever asked you to show a doctor's note for carrying EpiPens? And overwhelming was no, but there has been some instances. So not to rule it out completely, it's unfortunate that there's just not this transparency where you know where you need to produce this note or not. But overall, it's very, very rare. It sounds like I have never been asked on any of my travels as well. And I'll talk to this other stat too, so I don't show this again. Have you ever had any difficulties bringing allergy safe food through international customs? And the majority have not, but hopefully it's because they pack smart and they didn't try to break any rules though too. So I'll stop sharing that again. All right, so we'll get into some more questions. Keep them coming. This is just wonderful to see so much coming in here. So we did doctor's note. Do you consider distance to hospitals when you're making travel decisions? How the proximity to medical care?
Absolutely. I touched on it a little bit before, but and again, not medical advice, but the information that I know is that an EpiPen can buy you about 20 minutes. So I try to factor that in when I'm just kind of rough math as I'm doing that. So if I am 2 hours from the nearest hospital, if I'm on a hiking trip or if I'm somewhere where I need that, I will make sure I have 2 hours divided by 20 minutes. I'll make sure that I have 6 EpiPens with me. So, and that is, if I have that many EpiPens, if I'm throwing expired EpiPens in there, fine. I mean, ideally they're current, up to date, but I'll have as many as that is, and I'll make sure I carry that many.
Yeah, in our case, we do. We try to travel to places that have easy access to hospitals. Sometimes it's not possible. Last time that we went to a different location, we went to Zanzibar, and there was one hospital in the island, and it wasn't to close to the place we were staying, but we chose a hotel that had a doctor on call that I communicated with them, and they said that it would be close by. So I'm not sure if it would have helped much, but at least we tried to factor that in.
I think also going off of that and knowing where the hospital and things like that are important, but it's equally important to know the emergency numbers as well, just because they're different in every country. So just having it written down, even if it's in your notepad on your phone, just God forbid, you don't want to be in a state of panic and then also be Googling what the emergency number is.
That's a really good point. And having all of this information thought through, doing your research and planning before your trip, you don't want to think of the worst, but you want to have a plan in place in case of it, because I'm not sure about your reactions, but when I've had serious allergic reactions before, my thinking is not straight, and I am not making the wisest choices when all I'm thinking about is just needing to get help. So to have all of that thought through is just crucial. So interesting to hear, hospitals, you go to major cities, they're going to be around, but you start to go off the beaten path, and it's definitely a consideration. One of my personal favorite travels that I do every summer, it's not international. I go into the backwoods in Canada, and I go on a canoe trip for days in the middle of nowhere where there are no hospitals. And I bring a ton of EpiPens with me, but I also mitigate the risk by being a control freak in terms of what food is packed. I am the food planner with all of my friends. They love camping with me because they don't have to do any of the work with the food. I volunteer. So there's definitely ways that you can go off the beaten path and make it work with allergies too. You don't always have to be attached to that care, but you got to be careful too. A great question. While we're still talking about epinephrine, what are some of the best ways to protect epinephrine from heat or cold during travel? Have you ever been somewhere crazy hot or crazy cold?
I have a backpack that has an insulated pouch that's built into it. So you can kind of get creative with where you're buying these things. You don't have to go to like Google like EpiPen packs. I actually found the backpack from a gym website where people like meal prep and bring their own food places. So I like it, especially for travel, because I'm not stuffing bags within bags and then trying to find it. It's just an easy pouch right in the front. It's insulated, and I keep medication in there and everyone knows where it is, so it doesn't get lost.
Yeah, jumping off of that, I did my junior year of college, I studied abroad and I did a trip called Semester at Sea. So it was a ship that basically went along the equator the entire trip. So it was minimum of like 90 degrees for 4 months. So that was definitely a concern of mine going in. I got one of those insulated little pouches. And I put that in my bag just to make sure, and I constantly checked it just to make sure. But I also, and this may just be a me thing, I rotated the EpiPens just kind of day by day to make sure that I wasn't, in case they were damaged, I was checking on them and then I was rotating them through. So it wasn't, 5 days in a row, the same EpiPens that possibly could have been damaged. So that was just a little trick that I did, but that was definitely a concern on a trip that long, that was that hot, for sure.
Yeah, we also have one of those pouches that we travel with everywhere. And I have it like a standalone one, so I can put it in my bag, in my backpack, or in Triana's backpack, or my husband's. We can just put it where it's more comfortable for us at the time.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to actually ask our audience for a little bit of help because we're busy talking here, but I see some amazing ideas coming up. Rachel uses the Frio cooling pouch, and Colin has the EpiTemp pack. I haven't even heard of that one. Felicia has a pouch meant for insulin meds that keep EpiPens cool. If you are able to put the links to any of these in the chat, that would be really great for people to check out on this call. So thank you for sharing those. And yeah, and for people that might not be aware, we all have different levels of what that initial diagnosis and allergist visit told us, but they are temperature sensitive. So there is a range that you need to keep epinephrine within. It can't be too hot, it can't be too cold. It could compromise that medicine. So it is important if you're going somewhere really hot or really, really cold to make sure that you're insulating it some way or some form. So any links to helpful products would be amazing there. Thank you. All right, one of our questions, and please feel free to keep them coming here. They're fantastic. Do you pack anything that people, maybe non-allergic community, would find as quirky? Something that maybe you wouldn't be thinking of for traveling with food allergies, but it's kind of part of your packing routine? Something that people would not be thinking of as obvious?
Yes. Other than, I mean, a million snacks and pouches and all of those things, this sounds a little fancy of me, given the fact that I do a lot of adventure vacation and enjoy my camping. But I bring a silk or satin pillowcase with me to put over pillows in any hotels or anywhere, just in case it's not, you know, an allergy safe environment, or if I'm sleeping in a tent on the ground. I want to make sure wherever I'm putting my face, especially if I'm only have a short amount of time in an area, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most out of it, and that my time in the morning is not spent fixing my face or, I don't know, not feeling well, when I could just pack a little pillowcase with me. So very weird and quirky, especially while camping, but I definitely recommend it.
That's a really solid tip. I've never thought of that. A little quirky, but really smart.
Thank you. Thank you.
In our case, nothing that quirky as that, but we do try to take waffle maker with us to have nice waffles for breakfast if we can. My daughter loves them, and you never can have waffles anyway. So yeah, that's what we try to take.
Nice.
I don't think it's that quirky, but I know people that bring their own silverware sets and things like that too. So
Yeah, and Janine in chat just relayed my number one quirky thing, and that's a sponge. I always have a sponge with me, a new sponge, because it's I'm crisscrossing across America next month, and I'm going to be at hotels, Airbnbs, a whole bunch of places, and just to have a sponge to clean some dishes that's clean means a lot to me. So that.
Yeah, I do that. Sponge, some sort of spatula, and a cloth to clean. I do that.
Nice. Oh, I love this. You take a crock pot that plugs in. Excellent. And I've heard of people that bring hot plates with them. So you have that type of control over your own cooking environment. One friend actually was flying and actually sent a small microwave in the mail to the destination, picked it up, and then used that for cooking. So hey, whatever is your comfort zone, you know, and there's no judgment. Whatever you need to do to feel safe and enjoy travel, do that. And Angela has a great one too. Toaster bags. I've seen those. Really neat. So there's no cross contamination in a toaster. You put your toast in a bag. I've also seen a product where it goes on the inside sleeve of the plane sleeve in the seat in front of you. So you can use even just your own plastic bag, but you're not having your stuff touching, you know, sometimes there can be peanut shells in there. So also really neat hack. And then Felicia added, when the kids were younger, airplane seat covers. That's a really innovative product too, where it's, I don't know, I've seen those seats. They're not always the cleanest, and to actually have a seat cover go on top can give you some peace of mind for a long flight, especially. Great. All right, if anybody else has some quirky things that they pack, please put it in the chat. I think we're getting a lot of neat allergy travel hacks in the process here. So let's jump into meals, and then we'll get into some more questions here. Oh, yeah, the food trays can be very dirty too. So having some wet wipes with you too is really important. So in terms of meals and meal planning, what's your go-to meals, snacks for, let's say, if you're flying, but also then for your destination for day one, day two? What do you pack meal wise?
So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I about 90% of the time stay at an Airbnb. So I know once I land, I'll have a kitchen to be able to cook. But in terms of flying, I try to pack meals in a sense that I get a good protein source, a good fat source, and healthy carbs. So I found that oatmeal is really easy to pack, especially if you're eating snacks all day. I feel like a hot cup of oatmeal is actually really refreshing. When I went to Egypt, I was traveling for over 30 hours and I don't eat airplane food or food from an airport. So just getting snacks out of a bag gets redundant and really boring. So I try to pack thinking in that way of like what will feel good. So I found oatmeal, I add protein powder to it that's allergy friendly. And then they sell the sun butter in little travel packets. So then I add that to get the healthy fats too. Again, looking at high protein snacks, I bring beef sticks. I know there's sometimes questions about if you can get beef through security, like beef jerky. I've never had a problem, but I pack them, but then I also pack some in other bags just in case they get taken. I have snacks when I'm on the trip. And I even bring bone broth in powdered packets that, again, I just have to add hot water and I get 9 grams of protein. It's almost like a cup of soup. So I think when I'm packing for an airplane, I try to think like that versus, okay, a granola bar that I know I can eat or a bag of chips that after 30 hours, I'm going to be sick of eating.
Really smart. Barbara, what's on your list of safe foods to pack?
We depending on whether it's a long or long flight. Now we had 25 hours from South Africa to Argentina now with a 2-year-old. I packed a wide range of things. I made sandwiches at home that were safe, fruit, her favorite snacks, and sweets and fruit rolls and that sort of thing, and basically lots of different things, even if it's small. So to keep variety and not eat the same thing during the whole flight, because that's exhausting and boring. And then if it's a very short trip, well, just something, 1 or 2, I don't know, a fruit and maybe a sandwich with protein and health fats and something like that. But yeah, I try to keep variety so we don't get bored.
I'm a little bit different, I guess. On shorter flights, I try not to eat at all. If I have the option to eat a lot beforehand or have a substantial meal that can hold me through, I really prefer not to eat on airplanes, just kind of for safety reasons if anything happens or in the air. If it's a long flight, like Barbara and Lindsay were saying, I think that we're all on the same page on this one. I will not bring something that I have not tried before. And I don't typically eat airplane or airport or airplane like hot food or cold food. Basically anything I have not eaten before, I will not eat while in the air. So that can be anything from cereal. If I take cereal, put it into little Ziploc baggies and have that in my bag, or any again, kind of high protein snacks, as Lindsay was mentioning, just something to hold you over until you get somewhere. I really like the 88 acres protein bars with the seeds in them. Those hold you over for a while, and you can, they're wrapped up. So if your hands are dirty, I use those for everything. You don't even have to be touching those with your hands. So I typically go for snacks over a long period of time, and ones that I've definitely had before, made sure that I have eaten them before, but also ones that are sturdy so they won't get smushed in my bag, because nothing is worse than a smushed anything. So definitely look for sturdiness and protein.
I'm the king of smush sandwiches. When I travel, I have to say I wish I had more variety, but I make these gourmet sandwiches that I get so excited to actually have. I don't treat myself to these regularly, so I save them for travel. I need to invest in a better case for them, because right now they're getting a little too smushed. But to each their own. Lindsay, you really blew me away with how much planning on nutrition that you really put into your meal planning for travel. So I think with all of our strategies, we can all learn from each other. Fantastic, thank you. And some great comments here as well. Oh, Rachel added a whole bunch. Allergy safe cereal bars, as they're high calorie but hard to find abroad. Dried noodles, which are very light. That's a really good point when you want to stay kind of nimble. Vegan chocolate treats in place of hotel desserts. And from the UK, it's no longer okay to carry dairy or meat products into Europe. Thank you, Brexit. So we need to shop carefully for packing. Yeah, and this is kind of the norm for a lot of international travel, is anything that's essentially was alive, fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy, fish. This is kind of a no-go zone, especially going to North America from abroad. And also, you can have spreads on your sandwiches. You can have things like this that are liquids or gels when it's part of a food, but don't try to bring a giant jar of jam with you. You can have jam sandwiches, but you just can't have too much of that substance on you. And Kara says, we pack a thermos full of dinner, rice, veggie chicken for our allergic kid on the flight. Oh, that sounds wonderful. So yeah, investing in some, thermoses, things that can keep food hot or cold, really, really good idea for some of those longer flights and the first day or two of travel while you get situated. In terms of how you've adapted your strategies over time, I think, as we saw with that initial poll, there's a lot of people who have not traveled internationally before. We all start somewhere. How have you gotten to the level where you are at now? Where were you at the start? Where are you now? And I know for me, it's almost embarrassing where I started, but I'll let you go ahead first. And how has that evolved over time? How have you gotten more proficient at it?
I'll go first.
Sure.
I will say, like you, Kyle, I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I went to Europe without this many snacks or X amount of EpiPens. Obviously it was safe and I was okay, but looking back, it's a learning experience, and every time you travel, it's a learning experience. So I think what's changed for me the most is how I pack things. So I was kind of touching on it earlier, but I usually have a Ziploc bag full of foods and snacks that I bring on my first airplane. I then kind of separate snacks between if I have a carry-on, a check bag. If someone's with me, I put stuff in their bag, just God forbid if my check bag got lost or something. I don't want to end up at my destination and only have all of my important things in one bag that's no longer with me. So I think how I've packed has definitely gotten better throughout the years, and just learning, again, like having important things close to you the whole time. And then I usually keep a second Ziploc bag for the flight back that I don't touch throughout the trip, just so I don't accidentally eat all my snacks. And then I have a 30-hour trip and I don't have anything. So I think I got really strategic in my packing.
So smart.
Yeah, I agree. Jumping off of that, the same thing, I would say, being strategic with packing. I only travel carry-on. The only time I ever checked a bag was during that very long semester at sea, which was for 4 months. So other than that, I like to keep everything with me and will not pack something unless I can carry it. through like a cobblestone street. That's kind of my family's rule. So kind of tips to do that and travel light. I like to, I use my shoes as little lovely places to kind of shove snack bars, really any place that there is space in a bag. I am putting snacks as my kind of extra filler space. I also, and I feel like this sometimes gets lost in the allergy community, going places. I mean, I'm a foodie and I think it's really important to be able to, for me at least, to be able to experience the food and the culture of wherever I'm going from a culinary perspective. So I do a ton of food research before I go anywhere. And this has been, since I was little, it's definitely gotten much easier with like internet and all of the apps and companies that help do that. But I do a ton of food research. I definitely try to eat. I typically try to eat one meal out at a restaurant every single day when I'm traveling, unless it's like an adventure or something where I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I definitely do that research, make sure the reservations are there, make sure I speak to somebody from wherever it is, or attempt to communicate with them via email. And that's where translation cards and things like that are really helpful in other countries that don't speak English. If I'm traveling with a group or something, I'll talk to the guide beforehand and just make sure that they're able to communicate with wherever we're going beforehand. So that piece is really important to me, to be able to, as much as I can, experience the culinary tourism of wherever I'm going. But as far as food that I'm packing goes, I am finding any space that I can in my bag. And then I'm making sure, just kind of a general rule in my brain is I like to have enough calories to kind of add up to a meal and a half for the day. So if I can't eat lunch wherever I'm going, I make sure I have enough snacks that can at least hold me over. It may not be gourmet, it may not be the most nutritionally balanced, but it's calories and it's something. Because sometimes you go somewhere for the experience and you can't really balance that. So you kind of just have to kind of manage your expectations when it comes to that piece. And I think that I've gotten much better with.
Nice.
Right. I agree with that. Research is super important. We start communication, the way you tell people. I don't know, try to use different words and explain in different ways, and obviously that's where equal cards help a lot. And then also in my packing strategies changed a lot. At the beginning of our journey, there were many times where I was left hungry and I didn't have anything to eat because I didn't think of that. And then now I always have, I might not have an extra set of clothes for my daughter, but I will have food. Like that is something that I will have always. Doesn't matter what happens around me.
Yeah, it is so true. And for me, it's actually over time, I've just gotten more confident dining out around the world and speaking up and advocating for myself. So if anything, I've shifted from a full backpack full of food, where like my socks and everything else went actually in my guitar, like in the guitar, and then I'm pulling out socks out of the sound hole, to now like my guitar is empty and I don't bring as much. I have a lot of safe food, but I can also put other belongings in my backpack. So I've gotten better at it over time. We've got about 10 minutes left here, so I'm going to do some quick fire questions here. I know we got a couple that we can combine here, where Felicia wants to know how to do research for Japan and Korea. And then Charlie's asking, what are your top websites when you're researching? So overall, in general, maybe you have a specific place where you could get info on Japan and Korea, or in general, where do you look for travel-related allergy information before your trip?
I always post on the Allergy Travels group on Facebook, or I search for posts on there to see if other people have traveled to similar places and what their experiences were. Again, it's on Facebook. It's super easy to join. And then I use different apps, and one is Spoken, another one is the Find Me Gluten Free. So at least you have a game plan. It doesn't mean you have to go to the places, obviously, but just knowing that there's places that other people have had success. Spoken specifically has a category in there for not even just restaurants, but different grocery stores. But, so for example, I was just in Lisbon and I was so surprised. We had a traditional grocery store that was right next to the Airbnb that had your typical meats, veggies, and things like that. But then around the corner, there was a more like health conscious grocery store, and it was huge. They had like multiple aisles of all gluten-free breads and things like that. So like I added that to the app. So like next time people go, they know there's, if you're not in a situation where you don't feel comfortable at a restaurant, at least there's other resources to go.
Definitely. I agree completely when it comes to, I love going to grocery stores that are in different countries. It's a really cool way of understanding the food culture without feeling safe, so you can actually understand what's in them if the ingredients are translatable. I like to, and speaking about, I guess, Japan specifically, I do the food research about actual the food and cuisine in the location I'm going to beforehand, just to kind of get the understanding of, sometimes the vinegar that's in the sushi rice has gluten in it. So that's something I need to be aware of. Or like, I know I can't have ramen. So, and I know that the restaurants are completely separate. So just having that understanding of what the kitchens might look like at least gives me a little peace of mind. And just to have that understanding even before jumping into those sites. But as Lindsay said, Spoken is a really great resource for that. Find Me Gluten Free. I also like Yelp and TripAdvisor. I think just seeing kind of top rated places and then searching by keywords is really helpful. Gluten free, dairy free, all of that fun. And then just asking my friends, honestly, if it's a place that that I feel comfortable going into, that looks clean, that anybody who even might not be an allergy person suggests, I'll at least do my research and do my due diligence before saying no.
Yeah, I am very lucky. I have friends all over the world due to my job. So I do reach out to them in advance to ask about a couple of things. And then I do look into what's the typical foods of the destination we're going, how is it made, sort of to try to understand whether it would be safe or not. And then look for restaurants, try to communicate to them, specifically when you go to a place like I traveled a lot in Africa because that's where I was living. So I know in all the the search engines and stuff. So I try to sort of do a localized search. It takes a lot of time, but it works.
Yeah, and all great points. And just doing your research in advance, taking it slow, taking it at your own pace. And there are a lot of people that want to help. Our community is just fantastic. We're, unfortunate that we have a lot to deal with to travel, but very fortunate that we have a community that's got our back and wants to help. I recommend all of the resources mentioned. I will highlight the links in here, the Allergy Travels Facebook group, where it's about 15,000 people who are just ready to answer your questions. What is Tokyo like with food allergy? Boom, 10 responses. So very, very helpful and supportive environment on there. We've got only a couple minutes left. I know there was more questions and unfortunately we didn't get to all of them, but here's what I would love our audience to do. This is a monthly roundtable that we've just started up last month. And we're still open to what topics we're going to be talking about. So if there's certain topics you want us to cover, we've got 23 amazing ambassadors that have amazing experiences to share. So in the chat, please put down what topics you would like us to cover in a future session, and we will try to make it happen. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen and just go over a couple additional resources. So this is a travel checklist that we have on the Equal Eats website, and I'll put the link in the chat in a second for this. And it's just helpful because it's kind of by date, chronologically, 1 month, what you should be thinking of 1 week before. So a nice general checklist to make sure that you're thinking through everything. Prohibited foods, talked about that. a lot of resources out there, what goes through TSA, through customs, and what can't. But overall, that's just kind of a good tip of the iceberg of what we wanted to cover today. I'll stop sharing. And I wanted to do one last poll question before we let everybody go. And I know there was questions about, will this be recorded? Absolutely, we are recording right now. So you can watch this again if you arrived late, no problem. It's going to be on the Equal Eats website. We'll put it on our blog. It's on YouTube. So you'll be able to find it there. And I'll do one last poll question. One just for feedback. Would you want to participate in more in future roundtables? Was this helpful for you? All right, and let's see. Did anybody find this helpful? 100%. Wow, that's so nice. Well, we really appreciate you coming. We try to keep this pretty interactive, pretty informal, just so you can get information. I know I go to a lot of webinars where it's not so interactive, and this is the point of this, is to really try to answer as many of your questions as possible. I know we didn't answer all of them, but I do respect our panel's time. We did promise an hour here. And I do have, I think, one more poll, and then, no, that's it for the polls. But I do want to ask our panel one last question, and just like a 20-second wrap-up question. This is kind of a surprise question to all of them. Why do you go through all this hassle? Why is it worth it to travel this world with all of these allergies? What makes this world so compelling and amazing to you that this is all worth it? The packing, the planning, the EPIs, the food planning, the bone broth packs. What makes this all worth it for you?
I think every day you kind of get into your groove of like your own small little world, right? So having the opportunity to go to another place and experience a different culture and meet new people and how they live in a different way of life is really refreshing. And being able to come back into like your own little bubble and take things you've learned from other people and things you saw, I don't think you can replicate that really. So traveling just brings a different experience that until you do it, there's no really adequate way to explain.
Yeah, for me, traveling is something I will not give up for anything. And I would like to teach my daughter all the experiences you can get, and to show her that she can do anything, even if she has a restriction.
Yeah, definitely. I think that for me, having that cultural understanding and global perspective of just what's going on in the world, of just what's going on in the world, and having that cultural, global perspective makes us all just more well-rounded individuals, and makes us I think it's made me a better, more well-rounded person overall. And this world is a beautiful, beautiful place. I mean, Earth Day is in a couple days, and being able to see as much of the world as we can is just, I mean, to me, it's invaluable.
And awesome way to wrap it up, and nice to see a little one on camera too, you know, to show someone like that the world's a beautiful place, and that you can do it. You can experience the beauties of this world. Allergies don't have to slow you down and limit you just to your hometown, your home state. You can see this incredible world. So very empowering stuff. I want to give a sincere thanks to our amazing panel, Kelsey, Lindsay, Barbara. Thank you so much for your time. I know I see so many thank you notes already in the chat for all the information that you've shared today. So thank you very much. And hopefully we can do this again sometime. And I also want to thank our wonderful audience for participating today. I know we're all busy, and you all spent an hour of your time learning about some really crucial stuff that hopefully will make your future international or national, wherever you're traveling, that trip a little safer. So thanks for coming. Please reach out to us. You'll find more information on equaleats.com, where we'll be posting this, and we have more resources. Oh, and I did promise that I would put the link to the travel checklist. So there it is. You can download that checklist and then you can print it out as well. Wonderful. All right. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Safe travels.